Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this week's East Central Regional Podcast. I have two regrets, apologies to share with you. First of all, I regret that I don't have another camp video to share with you. I know a number of you enjoyed that. We had that one last week, and you might want to go back and take a look at it in case you missed it. And the second regret, or apology, is that it's not Wednesday. It's Thursday. I missed my own deadline. I'm going to try to do better. In fact, I will attempt to do better in the future. But you're probably wondering where I am. Well, I'm sitting in my office in my thinking chair. Now, I know you're probably thinking, does your chair think? No, it doesn't. It's a practice that I learned many years ago from one of my mentors who basically taught me to have a set place in your office to sit down and do some thinking. And so this is a place where I do a lot of thinking. I sit in this chair and I think. Now, if I do it every day, it's very helpful. If I miss my thinking time, if I see my chair and it's empty, I think, I haven't been able to sit down and do some thought-provoking, deep thinking. Now, the purpose of this chair is that every morning I try to sit here just for a few moments and think about the day. What are some of the demands that I have on the day? What are some of my appointments that I have on that day? I also consider maybe perhaps some of the projects that I need to be working on, some of my responsibilities that I may have. A lot of deadlines that seem to be hitting now, especially toward the end of the year, with not only what's happening in the region, but with vision and other things. And so I think about those things, and I take the time, and I learned this years ago, to identify the most important item or the most important action for that day. And I make sure it becomes my priority. I make sure that I think about it. I consider what are the action items I would have to do during that day to make sure that I bring that project to a completion. I don't always succeed, but it helps me to keep the day focused, and I think it's a good thing to pass on to you as well. The purpose of these podcasts is perhaps to share with you perhaps a good thought like this, but to share also have this extra contact with you through the website. It's not perfect. I'm still learning how to do this. I'm not exactly comfortable with it yet, but it keeps me excited. In order to think about the day, there's another thing that is important for us to do, and that is to set appropriate priorities. Have you ever thought about that? Well, there are priorities that we need to have as followers of Jesus Christ, as followers of the Messiah, as followers of God. And there was an excellent article, in fact I have it right here, that was in the Church of God News back in 1999. It was written by Mr. Bill Butler. I shared this article, I believe it was with the Women's Forum a few years ago. And I think it's good to go back over it from time to time to remind oneself what are the appropriate priorities that we ought to have on a daily basis. The first priority is seeking first the kingdom of God. We should know that, and so that should be our number one priority each and every day. Secondly, it would be looking after our health. That might be a surprise to some, but it is. Our health is very important. Number 3, caring for our families. Number 4, our employment. What are our responsibilities to our employer if we are employed, or if we are an employer, what are our responsibilities to our employees or to our company? That's important to place that within the priority. I want you to notice where those are. God's first, health is second, third family, and then your employment. After employment would be service to the church. Again, notice where that is. Sometimes we might have that out of whack. We put church ahead of family. We shouldn't do that. So service to the church. Education and self-improvement is number 6. Recreation and diversion, number 7. And of course there's some exceptions to those priorities. So here are our 7 priorities each and every day. If we would spend the time, maybe 3 or 4 minutes every morning, and think about what is it that we have to do that day, compare them to our priorities, and make sure that we do the important things first and then work down the list, it would be amazing. In fact, I know this from personal experience when I do it. It's phenomenal how much you get done. So, just some food for thought. I'm looking forward to seeing many of you who will be in Cambridge this weekend, over in Wheeling, the Wheeling congregation coming over, the Akron congregation coming down. And until next week, and next week's podcast, I'm sitting in my thinking chair, and hopefully we'll be doing more thinking.